Have you felt like you've been doing the work, but you still feel stuck? Maybe you're still getting triggered by the same old stuff, or you're getting thrown off by people's nonsense. Maybe you're still overthinking and doubting. Maybe you're being reactive to friends or family members. If you can relate, then this video is about how to get unstuck and accelerate your spiritual growth. I'm going to walk you through what I consider to be the 5 fundamentals of accelerated spiritual growth. These are not new understandings and they're not very complicated, which is why we tend to take them for granted because they're so basic, they become easy to ignore. But when you come back to these 5 fundamental actions and you start actually embodying them on a daily basis, that's when it starts to feel real and not just theoretical. And that's how you start to get traction with your inner work and stop wasting time. When you hear the first 4, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I need to be doing more of that. But the last one, that is the one that most people overlook. And the good news is that you can start implementing all 5 of these actions right away. Okay, so let's get into it. Number 1, you want to start to own 100% of your experience. Because think about it. If you are the problem, then that also means that you are the solution. And that's actually great news, right? And this is the starting point for all spiritual growth, because at its core, spiritual development is really about presence. And you can't be fully present if you're constantly waiting on someone else to behave better, or someone else to apologize, or someone else to finally recognize your work. That creates an internal dependency. And as long as you're outsourcing your piece to someone else's actions, you're never going to be truly free. But when you say, I'm not going to wait anymore, this experience is mine to own. These are my feelings, my reactions, my healing, and my growth. Then something very powerful shifts inside of you, and you stop being a passive character in your own life, and you become the author of your experience. And the moment you do that, you start to see every challenge, every trigger, and every disappointment as material that you can use to grow. And you start to treat life more like an experiment to see what happens if I show up differently this time. And that's the moment when your inner growth starts to accelerate. And number 2, you want to create a reliable outlet for past, present, and future stress. Now, this is non-negotiable because let's face it, we're all taking on more stress than we know what to do with. Every single day, we get more stress coming in the form of more pressure, more distraction. And what most people tend to do is they look for Band-Aids, right? They start bringing out the CBD oils, the melatonin gummies, the magnesium supplements, while undervaluing the actual practices that lead to you creating a release valve, which primarily is meditation, right? Meditation, when practiced consistently, is the most effective form of stress release on the market. Not because it changes your external circumstances, but because it rewires your response to them. It basically pulls the stress out of your nervous system so that your body can reset itself physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. People think meditation is about stillness, about quieting the mind, about looking like you're spiritual, but really it's about offloading the stress and giving your body a break. Just like any device you have, it's going to work much more efficiently and much better if you turn it off occasionally. And meditation also comes in handy for creating a baseline of clarity that will allow you to really be in the moment as opposed to reacting from the tension all the time. So without this outlet, what happens is stress starts to basically run the show by wreaking havoc on your sleep, your digestion, your immune function, your libido, your memory, and your overall energy. It's kind of like carrying a heavy backpack full of bricks throughout your life and wondering why you're always so exhausted. And the thing is, most people, and even spiritual people, treat meditation like it's an extracurricular activity, right? Like it's optional, something that you do on the weekends. But here's the thing, stress isn't optional. Stress isn't taking any days off. So we can't take days off from our meditation practice. And if we want to have a reliable outlet for the stress to be released, then we have to reliably show up for our daily meditation practice. Okay, number 3, we want to stay tuned in to our heart voice. I don't mean the voice that sounds spiritual or soft or poetic. I mean that still small voice underneath the noise. It's that actual inner guidance that speaks to us in the form of directions as opposed to warnings. Now, this takes time because you're going to have to split test and do trial and error in order to hone in on that actual voice, because what most people think is their internal voice is actually disguised as the voice of fear. What they hear is, don't trust that person, or don't take that risk, or don't speak up. And you think that's your intuition, but really that's what your inner voice of fear sounds like. Your real intuition doesn't deal in fear. It doesn't scream, no. It simply whispers, yes, go, try that, right? It's directional. It's kind of like your GPS in the sense that it tells you what's for you. It doesn't tell you what to avoid. Imagine how annoying that would be if your GPS said, don't turn here, don't turn there, don't go down that road. That's what fear sounds like. Real intuition sounds like, turn left here, go straight, exit now, etc. It's simple, it's clear, and it's direct. But here's the catch. If you've spent your whole life listening to the fear voice, then you're going to have to train yourself to know the difference between the fear voice and the intuitive voice, okay? And that just, again, it comes down to trial and error. It comes down to split testing and reflecting, and then asking yourself, was that my heart or was that my conditioning? And over time, the real voice of your intuition will get louder and louder, and the more confident you will be in knowing that, yes, this is my intuitive voice. And that's also why substances like alcohol and recreational drugs only make it harder to hear that voice, because they dilute it. And if anything, they turn up the volume on the fear voice and turn down the volume on your intuitive voice. So if you're serious about accelerating your spiritual growth, then you also want to minimize, if not eliminate altogether, the alcohol and recreational substances. Hey, if you've been knocking your head against the wall when it comes to daily meditation, falling off the wagon, getting back on, not quite sure if what you're doing is working, don't worry, I got you. For a limited time, I'm giving away my signature 7-day meditation kickstart for free to you, my Spiritual Perspective listeners. Plus, you'll get a free 2-week all-access pass to my entire Happiness Insiders online curriculum of challenges and masterclasses, which will provide you with a crystal clear roadmap for mastering your inner work. You'll also get support directly from me, and accountability, and a place to ask questions, and you can join me live for a meditation on each of your 2 free weeks. So with zero cost to you, you can get a daily meditation practice that you'll actually enjoy and look forward to doing for the rest of your life. And you'll have me to personally support you and hold you accountable. And after your 7-day meditation kickstart ends, you can start the 108-day meditation challenge and get even more support. And you can take as many other inner work challenges and masterclasses as you can fit into those 2 weeks. We have an unheard of 80% completion rate for our challenges, which is over 20 times higher than your average online course. So if you've been feeling stuck and inconsistent when it comes to your inner work practices, you will not find a better solution anywhere online. Go to thehappinessinsiders.com and let's get your meditation practice up and running today. That's thehappinessinsiders.com, and you can tell that nagging daily stress to kiss your ass. I'll put a link below in the description. All right, number 4, you want to be prolific in taking leaps of faith. Now, this is the one that separates the spiritual dabblers from the people who are serious about their growth. Because most people say they want growth, but they only pursue the kind of opportunities that look like they're guaranteed to succeed. And obviously that makes sense on paper, and society validates those kinds of choices that don't rock the boat too much and that doesn't risk embarrassment or failure or rejection. But true spiritual growth does not come from comfort seeking. It comes from movement. It comes from honing in on what feels aligned for you, even when it doesn't seem to be rational or convenient or necessarily the safe bet. You may have a strong gut feeling to end a relationship or to relate to that person in a different way, or to have a hard conversation, or to start a new chapter, or to change careers, or to take on a part-time job, or to express something that you've been holding back for years. But if your next thought is, what are people going to think if it doesn't work out? Then you've already started to slow down your spiritual growth. So you don't want to let the fear of looking silly stop you from following what feels true for you. Some of the most spiritually aligned decisions that I've made absolutely no sense to anyone else at the time, but that's why they worked. That's why they led to some degree of transformation. And then ultimately that became a book or a story in my keynote talk or something that I use to share to inspire other people. And there's nothing special about me except I give myself permission to take those leaps. And that's what we want to do more of. You're not going to find this courage by outsourcing your approval. You have to listen to your internal guidance, and you have to trust that guidance. And you have to know that that guidance that feels aligned and that makes you feel expansive is always leading you in the direction of your path and your purpose. Speaking of purpose, this brings us to number 5, which is the one that often goes overlooked because the other 4 were really all about us. But 5 is to be more proactive about helping other people, right? Now, again, this might seem counterintuitive because how does helping other people speed up our spiritual growth? It's simple. When you're helping other people, you're serving in a leadership role or a mentorship role or a teaching role. And the teacher is always the most interested student in the room. In other words, when you guide someone else, when you mentor them, when you support them, when you serve them, you're forced to see yourself within that other person. And that helps you to expose your own shortcomings and your own blind spots more clearly. You see how often you interrupt. You see how quickly you may be prone to judge. You see how attached you are to being right. Or you may see the other person being judgmental or attached to being right. And it forces you to reflect on, how am I showing up like that as well? So it's not always an obvious surface level thing, but just being in that space of helping and witnessing other people's process inevitably allows you to reflect on your own process a lot more. And then you get an opportunity to embody those values that you've been reflecting on in real time. It's so easy to be spiritual in theory, but when somebody else is relying on you, or when you're modeling what that growth actually looks like in an embodied way, that's when your practice gets real. Here's the other thing. Service breaks that self-absorption loop that we all tend to kind of fall in from time to time. Woe is me. Why isn't somebody giving me what I need? What's going to happen to me? And so much suffering comes from being stuck in our own narrative and in our own story. And so helping others gives us an opportunity to get out of our own head and to get into that deeper level of connection, which is always rooted more in our purpose and more in our heart. So to recap, number 1, we want to own 100% of our experience. Number 2, we want to create a reliable outlet for past, present, and future stress, ideally in the form of daily meditation as opposed to occasional meditation. Number 3, we want to stay tuned into our internal GPS, also known as our heart voice. And once we have access to that heart voice, number 4, we want to use it to take leaps of faith. And as I said before, leaps of faith are not singular acts, they are a lifestyle. So we want to get used to taking those leaps of faith on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It could be something as simple as offering someone a compliment when you may have talked yourself out of it otherwise. And then number 5, we want to get in the habit of being of service, of helping other people as often as we can. And as we incorporate all 5 of these fundamental actions on a daily basis, then we have no choice but to accelerate our spiritual growth. What do you think? Does this match with your experience? And if you enjoyed this spiritual perspective, you're really going to appreciate this episode on how to show up as a spiritual person in a fear-based world. Or to see the entire playlist of spiritual perspective episodes, you can click right here. All right, see you next time.